Good morning. I was going to call our meeting to order. We'll give Jerry 1/2 minute to do our roll call.
Will Baca.
Here.
Jeffrey Baum.
Here.
Nadia Davis Locklear. Robert Davis Lyman.
Here.
Benita Haley.
Here.
Scott Himmelstein.
Here.
Nancy Zumi.
Here.
Pauline Larwood.
Here.
Deborah Malumed.
Here.
Peter McDougall.
Here.
Robert McDonald.
Here.
Alice Perez.
Here.
Michelle Price.
Here.
Emery Ramos.
Here.
Gary Reed.
Here.
Hannah Thomas.
Here. Thank you. We're going to have our Vice President, Scott Himmelstein, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under the President's report, Executive Vice Chancellor Bruckman, would this be an appropriate time for me to talk about the retreat yesterday? Yesterday, the Board of Governors had a retreat, and we identified 3 goals that we would like to work intensely on this year. So at the end of the year, we can look back and say we got these things done, and those 3 things are veterans issues, legislation for the Chancellor's office on a few different subjects, and, remind me?
A joint meeting between the State Board.
A joint meeting with our board and the State Board of Education. We're in the process of doing that. We talked about different agenda items and maybe having that go beyond just one joint meeting. And then we also talked about our board committee assignments, and we talked about our committees and what they do and how often they meet. And then at the end, we talked a little bit about legislative advocacy, what we're doing tomorrow and what we're doing over the long term. And that's the end of my report. Chancellor Scott, do you have a report?
Yes, I have a report, and you'll be patient with me because a lot of things have happened in the last 2 months, and so I'll talk to you about it. I continue to be active in terms of advocacy, talking about the budget and also talking about bills that we believe are important to community colleges. And so last week I had a meeting with the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Darrell Steinberg, whom I knew very well over in when I was in the legislature. In fact, the last 2 years he and I were seatmates in the Senate. And then I met also with John Perez, who is going to be the speaker as of today. And I fortunately knew John when I first ran for office because at that time he was a political representative for UFCW, the United Food and Commercial Workers, and was very helpful in my first campaign back in 1996. So I've kept up with John through the years, and we had a nice visit together. I also met with individuals about bills. Our Ruskin is going to be carrying our bill involving the Chancellor's office to make it more effective. Assemblymember Ruskin is also chairing the master plan study, and so he's very active in higher education. And I also met with Senator Alex Padilla, who's carrying a bill involving transfer. I continue a fairly busy speaking schedule. For some reason, I've been viewed as somebody who knows something about transfer, so I ended up speaking to a couple of national conferences about that subject, one in Dallas on January 27th and in Chicago on February 14th. You may recall that we were planning a trip to Washington, and that was going to be in early February. That happened to coincide with probably the worst snowstorm in the history of Washington. And after all of our flights were canceled, and after realizing that all the government offices were closed during the time we were going to be there, we have postponed that trip, and we're going there on March 10th through 12th, when we feel that, or at least we hope that the weather will be a little bit more cooperative. I'm going into a little detail here because we've got some new members, and I thought maybe we'd have the opportunity to explain a few things that are done. We have something called the Chancellor Circle, in which I go to colleges along with Paul Lanning, the foundation director, Jane Patton, the Academic Senate president, and we meet at a college and we invite neighboring colleges with their presidents and Academic Senate presidents to come. And then we meet with them after the luncheon. We also invite supporters of the foundation. And so I was at, I thought, successful ones at both Chaffey College on January 19th and De Anza College on February 25th. And then I was a panel member at USC on a national conference on enrollment issues on January 15th. And I spoke at the Community College League about effective trustee workshop on January 23rd. I will keep working, speaking to various groups. I'm going to be speaking to a National Hispanic Conference, and I called on Vice Chancellor Marlene Garcia to help me in preparing the speech that's going to be down in Costa Mesa. And then, as I said, we're going to take a trip to Washington on March 10th through 12th, and I will be meeting between now and the next meeting of this board with both the northern CEOs, that's the northern presidents of community colleges. They meet in an obscure place called Yosemite. And then I will be meeting with the southern California CEOs at Temecula. And so anyway, I'll be quite busy. I got to attend the foundation board meeting in San Francisco on January 27th. I want to compliment Terry Carbaugh and Paige Dorr for their good work on a press briefing that I had last week, and it was on Wednesday, and we invited quite a few press. And what I was pointing out to the press in my speech was, number one, we are faced as a result of this 8% cut with some real problems in community colleges. We think we'll have a slight decline in enrollment, even though the course sections throughout our colleges were cut by over 5%. Our enrollment decline will probably only be about 1%. And that's from the estimates that have come in to Vice Chancellor Skinner's office. And so we gave a press briefing on that, and we explained how difficult it was for the colleges to wrestle with their problems. We pointed out that we're educating more than 200,000 students for which we're receiving no remuneration. We continue to do that, but that in doing that, we often have to dip into the reserves of the college. And so in all probability, we'll have to cut even more because we can't continue to educate that number of students and not get paid for it. We pointed out that probably our decline this year will be about 21,000 students, or a little less than 1%. You might say, well, how can you cut course sections by, say, 5 to 10% and only decline in enrollment by 1%? Well, the truth of the matter is that our classes are more packed, more full than I believe they ever have been. A lot of colleges are reporting that 95% or more of their classes have reached their absolute maximum. Of course, the real tragedy is that we're turning away a lot of students, not because we won't admit them, but because they can't find classes. We had, for instance, at De Anza College, over 2,000 students on waiting list, and that's the kind of thing we're reporting. So I really wanted to highlight what it is the community colleges are wrestling with to sort of subtly build up a little pressure on the legislature and others to say, we need more funding. Well, I was pleasantly surprised at the response I got. We had a tremendous number of newspapers that published articles. Maybe some of you read them. There's an article, for instance, in the LA Times I was on several radio shows, KCBS, a 30-minute show in San Francisco, KNX down in Los Angeles, and several that just took the press briefing that I had orally and used it on the radio. And we were in, appeared on Fox News here in Sacramento, and also Belva Evans' program comes out of San Francisco. I believe it's called Northern California, and it was also aired over KQED, if I've said those correctly. Now, for your information, we've put together a compilation of all of the press that occurred, and we'll pass that out to you as time goes on here this morning. I will be appearing before the legislative budget committees on March 18th and 19th, or is it 17th and 18th. And Eric and I will be there, and I will be making the case. Those are the days that they will be listening to the presentations from CSU, UC, and community colleges. So I will try to make as forceful a case as I can. In our retreat yesterday, there was a little conversation about accrediting, and let me bring you up to date on that. I happened to look out in the audience, and I see that Ron Norton-Reel and Jane Patton are there, and maybe I've overlooked somebody else who was on this task force. I saw one or two of them this morning, but what we did was the Consultation Council, because of some concerns about accreditation, and the concerns really was the unusual number of sanctions that have occurred in the last few years. We are, as a Western Accrediting Commission, we have about 23 of our colleges who have some kind of sanction, warning, probation, and 2 of them were actually on show cause, but fortunately they have now been removed from show cause, but they still remain on probation. So we were feeling that there was an unusual number of sanctions, and compared to the other accrediting commissions, which would have only maybe 1 or 2% of their colleges on sanctions, this accrediting commission had something like, out of the community colleges, something like 20%. So we were concerned about that. We met as an accrediting group task force that was made up from the Consultation Council of myself, a representative from the Academic Senate, a representative from the community college CTA branch, from CFT, from FAC. We also had we had representative CEOs, Nikki Harrington. We had a representative of CIOs. So it was a very broad group. And from your group, we had Barbara Davis-Lyman, who represented this body. So we met. We sent out a survey. We compiled 7 recommendations. We had met some resistance from the executive director of the Accrediting Commission, but finally, after first being told that we couldn't appear before the commission, I was told that I could. And now the commission is going to be meeting in a retreat in March, and we're hopeful that some of those recommendations will be responded to. What's the next step? Well, we've tried to be pretty patient in terms of not wanting to highlight or to be in any sense confrontational. There was a little bit more, I would say, a more open kind of response from the executive director than we had anticipated. But anyway, we're doing the best we can along that line. I don't know whether Jane or Ron or anybody here wants to add anything to that. Did you want to say anything, or is that pretty much, have I painted the picture accurately? I see Jane stepping to the microphone. She's been a wonderful compatriot. In fact, she and Nikki Harrington were they accompanied me to appear before the commission. They weren't given permission to speak, but I was certainly pleased to have a couple of sidekicks of that stature to be with me. Jane, do you want to say something?
Thank you, Chancellor. I just want the board to know that this committee has done wonderful work, and the Chancellor was a wonderful organizer and leader and facilitator of the process. And there have been some indications that people were characterizing it as his agenda, and it extremely was a collaborative agenda and a collaborative concern that really bubbled up from the bottom. And I think it's a demonstration of collaboration and participatory governance working together to have a unified position that's well documented, and there is absolutely no fault or blame that should be given to the Chancellor. It's truly the entire system who had the concern. So I just wanted the board to know that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jane, for those kind words. I said on one or two occasions I don't want to become a lightning rod on this issue, and so I've tried to make it very clear that even though I was asked to chair it, that I was that it did have CEOs represented, CIOs, the Chief Instructional Officers, the Board of Governors, the Faculty Senate, the faculty unions, FAC itself, the Faculty Association. So it had a classified representative. Manuel Payan was on the committee. So we had classified administrators, faculty, Board of Governors, and there's a real sense of unity in the task force. So anyway, that was the story. Now, you've been passed out the media coverage report. That just tells you I did. You won't be given a test over this, by the way, so you don't have to read every article. But these are the articles that came out. It was, and as I said, I really want to pay a compliment to Terry Carbaugh and to Paige Dorr. They worked very hard on it. And Terry came to me and said, I think after Eric said now we have the reports of what the enrollment's going to be like, we got the first semester plus the estimates from the colleges. So she said, I think we could have a good press briefing on this. So we had people on this conference call, and from that, all of these articles were published in newspapers, plus all of the radio and television appearances that I've already referenced. So we feel like this is a good thing to be out about the community colleges. All we've tried to say is we're doing our job. We're doing it under very difficult circumstances. There are going to be some students that are going to be denied access, and that's the thing that concerns us the most, because we think it's not only harmful to those students, but it's going to be harmful to the economy of the state of California. There's just no question that if we don't have higher education available to our students, one day we're going to pay a pretty high economic price. Public Policy Institute said in 2025 there will be 1 million jobs in California that will require a bachelor's degree. There will be 1 million for which we will not have enough individuals with a bachelor's degree to fill those jobs. One of the fastest growing part of our economy, by the way, is those who require an associate degree, which we give for our career technical. Did you know between 2008 and 2018, it's estimated that those jobs will increase by 19%. So when we cut back on higher education, we're really cutting back on the future of the state of California. And we're trying to get that message out. We want people to understand that the community colleges are doing a heroic job of trying to meet the needs, but we can't meet all the needs when we have an 8% cut in funding. And the cuts that we experienced this year are we tried to keep going, in some cases dipping into reserve, but there's no question that many colleges will further cut course sections in 2010 and 11. Now, are they doing that because they just don't want to serve? Of course not. They're doing it for economic survival. You cannot keep You can't take an 8% cut and then still offer everything that you offered before. So there's in no sense are we faulting the community colleges. We're just saying that given the fact of what's happening, it's bad news for community colleges. Okay, is there questions? Are there questions that any member of the board would like to ask about the report that I've given? As I said, it's a little longer than usual, but I did want to. There's some new members here, and I wanted them to know what's happening and to kind of get a picture of the activity that's going on.
Well, on that on that note, I would like to introduce our two new members and let them introduce themselves to our audience, a little bit about themselves. So, welcome, Peter McDougall.
Yes, hello, I'm Peter McDougall, and joined this board with great enthusiasm and a sense of responsibility for doing all that I can to help the community college system and to work with Chancellor Scott and the other board members. I had considerable background in community colleges, having served for 21 years as superintendent president of Santa Barbara City College, and prior to that, 6 years in the Los Angeles Community College District, and prior to that, 10 years in higher education in universities back east. So very enthusiastic about having the opportunity to be on the board and looking forward to it.
Well, thank you very much. We're excited you're here. And Nadia Lockyer.
Yes, I am extremely honored to be serving with all of you, as I said yesterday at our retreat. I've read about each of you, and it's such a prestigious group. I'm very honored. And my life has been dedicated to helping people and empowering others, beginning with mentoring students to writing a handbook for students seeking a higher education. When I served as president of Santa Ana Unified School District Board of Education, my focus was at increasing college attendance rates, reducing teen pregnancy rates. And now I am a lawyer that works for the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, and I head up the Family Justice Center, which is a complete reinvention of service delivery. We co-locate both public and nonprofit agencies to ease access to services for victims of domestic violence, child abuse, sexual abuse, elder abuse. And it's saved the county dollars, it's saving frontliner morale and saving lives. And I know that higher education, and especially the community college system, is critical to uplifting many in need and helping them realize their dreams. So I'm very, very honored to be here and look forward to this service very much. So thank you.
Well, thank you both. We're happy to have a very full table, so this is great. You also got handed out, I didn't mention, initially, it was a letter to the editor in the LA Times a week ago. Today, it's missing its second page, so that will come to us later in the day. And Lance Azumi and I wrote a letter to the editor in a response that got published yesterday. So this is for your reading pleasure.
It's in the Times.
In the LA Times, both in the Los Angeles Times.
Can I,
Sure.
Madam Chairwoman, I just want to make a comment, if I may, just in gratitude to the Chancellor. It's obvious that you have been a tireless advocate, covering many miles and many hours at a difficult time for the system. And we, as we have said on multiple occasions, we are fortunate to have someone of your deep experience, caliber, and credibility on these issues heading the charge. So just want to acknowledge that on behalf of the Board of Governors.
Thank you. Absolutely. He's also got this great team that's sitting right behind you,
Clearly.
too. So we know.
didn't mean to fail to mention that.
That's
I hope it
he's the
goes without
leader
saying.
of a team. Absolutely. Our next order of business is approval of our January minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
One correction.
Yes.
Okay, Ambassador from Gaddy Vasquez doesn't have the I, and it's Gaddy Vasquez's name is spelled wrong, that's it.
The last name?
Yeah.
Okay. Get rid of the I?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any other changes? No?
Sorry, man.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Our next order of business is we are giving a resolution today for a past board member. We offered it to the Reverend Alfred Smith Sr., but he's not able to attend. Is that correct? And is there a future date he might attend? Oh, okay, so he may be with us in May. So today, the Chancellor and I will give a resolution to Kristen Jackson Franklin for all her years. Please come on up.
Do we vote on it?
No, that's it. Well, I'd like to have you say a few words here. Come on up here in the middle, and I'll lug that big resolution over here. But can you please tell us a little bit about how many years you've been on our board?
Okay. Hi, I've been on the board for 6 years. I was appointed in 2003 by Gray Davis, and it's been a wonderful experience. I've learned so many things. I've learned about how to be a gracious leader. I've learned how to work collaboratively with different groups of people, and I'm just excited to work with you guys in the future, and I want to thank you for everything you guys have done for the community colleges and for myself. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you a lot. And we didn't mention she was our student representative, so she had a very big job for many years.
Well, I just want to join in, Kristen, and tell you we appreciate very much your service. We were, as you pointed out, it was not only your contribution, but it was a learning experience. I look back on my student days, which of course is in ancient history now, but I think one of the great things that I gained from that experience was involvement in student government. And so I think to have been involved not only at the local level, but at the state level, to be a student representative and to think that you're representing over 2.5 million students, that's really a fearful task. And we appreciate your comments that you made. We appreciate the work that you've done. And of course, we want to wish you the very best in your future.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Introduction of our two colleges. Our next order of business, excuse me, let me put this down. They call it a recognition, I call it a celebration of college status for Moreno College, Valley College, and Riverside Community College District. And also we'll be doing the Norco College in Riverside Community College District.
Certainly one of the fastest growing areas in the state of California is what we call the Inland Empire. And when I was being queried by one radio announcer, I can't remember which one it was, they asked me, said, well, as you're undergoing this difficult times, why are you starting up two colleges? And I said, we're not really starting up two colleges. I said, these campuses have been in existence for certainly over a decade, and they've grown to such an extent that now they were accredited as colleges. And you know, when you really stop to think about it, it's magnificent. We have 112 colleges now. We went from 110 to 112. But I was doing a little math in my head, and I hope it's not wrong. But that's still over 25,000 students per campus. Now, some campuses have fewer than that and some much more. But we are really an amazing group of institutions. Always when I tell people that we educated 2.89 million students last year, and now I can say proudly there's 112 colleges, all over the state. And one of the things that the master plan set out was the idea that there would be a community college within driving distance of every person in the state of California. And we're having a little difficulty educating everybody that wants education at the community colleges because we do so many things and do them so well. But we are certainly doing what we can to make sure that any person in the state of California can drive to a community college. So we're thrilled to see the growth of the Riverside Community College District that now not only includes a very old institution, Riverside City College, but now has two brand new institutions, Moreno Valley College and Norco College. So would the representatives of those colleges come forward?
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I will give you the microphone first.
We will
Congratulations.
allow you to decide the order in which you're going to do this.
Congratulations. Here, let's go.
Congratulations.
Let's all move over in the middle here.
Okay.
My name is Virginia Blumenthal, and I am president of the Riverside Community College District Board of Trustees. And I will tell you, it is a thrill and an honor, speaking on behalf of my board, to be here. I'm a graduate of Riverside City College itself a great number of years ago, and I've watched these campuses grow into colleges, and it's been really thrilling and exciting. And I'd like to introduce our chancellor, our new chancellor, Dr. Gregory Gray.
Thank you very much, and let me echo Virginia's comments about being here today. This is history, I guess, for the entire state, but certainly history for the Riverside Community College District. And one of the things I guess my colleagues and I would pledge to you is that not only do we have 3 colleges now, but our goal is to improve each and every day. And I think we're doing that even in spite of the budget mess that we're in. We feel that we will get out of it. And the Moreno Valley College now will continue to grow and prosper, and we'll be focusing in on our allied health programs. Our Norco College, which has 11,000 students now, will continue to grow and will be our focus for industrial technology programs. So I think the plan for the entire college district to move forward is very positive. As I say, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and really to share in this moment of history. President Perez.
Okay, we'll start with the M's and before the N's. We're the 111th Community College. My name is Monty Perez, president of Moreno Valley College. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Deborah. I want to thank the Board of Governors, and especially want to thank my sister campuses, Riverside City College and Norco College. The community of Moreno Valley is totally ecstatic. And as Jack Scott said, our chancellor, every community deserves a college within driving distance where people can have a future. So I want to thank everyone, and particularly my wife, Dr. Margaret Quinones, who didn't see me for at least 2 years because I was so involved with accreditation, as you all know. So thank you so much.
Dr. Brenda Davis from Norco College.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to see many of you again. In 2008, we were poised to assume this position of being a college. However, what we have used the time for is to strengthen ourselves, to take recommendations seriously, and to move forward. At the Norco College, I can assure you that in joining in with my sister and brother colleges throughout the state, that we will do what we can to make a difference, particularly in the technical areas of engineering, logistics, and manufacturing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all your hard work. We did have a board meeting there a few years ago, so we know how beautiful it is out there. And in honor, we have some celebratory coffee cake. So we're going to take a short break from our board meeting after a few pictures, and we'll have everybody come over and congratulate you. Thank you. Oh, come closer. Closer, closer, closer. There.
We're on break.
If you can please take your seats. We're going to resume our meeting. And thank you, everybody from the Riverside District for coming up. Thank you very much. We're moving on to item 3.1, approval of grants and contracts. Executive Vice Chancellor Steve Bruckman.
Thank you. This is our list of grants and contracts for board approval. If there are specific questions about them, I probably will defer to the vice chancellors who have more specific knowledge.
Are there any questions or concerns? Member Perez.
No, I just had two questions. One is on number 5. I don't know if there's a typo with the dollar amount. Is it only $317? Or is it?
I doubt it.
$317,000.
But I would defer on this internal operations to Vice Chancellor Bruckman, Executive Vice Chancellor Bruckman.
Oh, this is for the Academic Senate. Yeah, I'm certain it's $317,000.
Because I just thought it'd be nearly impossible for them to fulfill their role with it. Okay. And the other question I had was on item number 11, on the Student Services Division. It's the funding for live and offline captioning and transcript services. So I noticed on a couple of these, we left in there, actual project amount will be determined by the office and is subject to change depending on the availability of funds. And I just want to follow up back to earlier this year when we were approving some of these and saying that depending on the budget, some of them might not actually occur. And is this one of those? Is this the case of that?
Linda, do you have? Linda Michalowski will respond.
I believe our intent is to provide some funding for the project on a prorated basis. It's part of our overall Disabled Students Programs appropriation. So to the extent that those funds are reduced, this grant would also be reduced. But we consulted with the DSP&S community, and they felt strongly that all of the projects needed some continued support. So the amount may go down, but I don't anticipate that we'll eliminate the grant.
Any other thoughts or concerns? Member Reed moves for approval.
Second.
Member Izumi seconds it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Madam Chair?
So moved. Yes.
Okay, well, now this is approved. I'd like to, if we can, because I'd like to get an update from Vice Chancellor Jose Mejan on that piece that we did last month in regards to us and the SBDCs and the workforce investment that we have put on. And it's not in here, but I thought that would be nice to have an update if I could on where we stand.
Is this a good time, do you think?
It's fine.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the Board of Governors, the Chancellor mentioned the 8% cut to the community college's budget. The Economic and Workforce Development Program received a 50% cut, 5-0. So in the 0809 budget that you approved, we were budgeted at $46.5 million. The 09-010 budget, with the cut to the Economic and Workforce Development Program, amounted to only $22.9 million to spend to support an infrastructure of 142 centers and hubs for data collection, coordination, and leadership, and providing grants to the colleges in the amount of $11.9 million. So obviously, given the magnitude of the cuts to the program, we are in the process of consolidating and reorganizing to fewer centers and fewer hubs that can be supported fully with the amount of funding that will now be available. And I'm sure Vice Chancellor Skinner will mention when he does his report the ink has not yet dried on the 10-11 budget. So assuming there are no further cuts, this is where we will hold the line. Assuming there are additional cuts in the future for economic and workforce development, even these projections are, and by projections I mean the 142 centers and hubs that are currently supported by EWD funds will be halved given the amount of cut to the program's budget. So even those assumptions, though, are on the table to be revised further if there are further cuts to the program. So obviously, in the past, when we had the $46.5 million funding, we could afford to spend $205,000 per center. Now with the budget cuts for 09-010, we're looking at $101,000, and we cannot support that kind of infrastructure with that level of funding, particularly as the program goes for reauthorization by 2013, and we begin the process of reviewing it for reauthorization in 2011. So I hope that answers your question, Member McDonald. If you have any other questions,
Member Perez?
Just a follow-up question, sir. I know we had talked about the need to look at the more successful centers and continue to fund those. And at some point in time, can you just share with us the criteria that's going to be used to determine which centers will actually continue to get funding versus the ones that would not? And part of my concern is about not only that the strong survive, but also making sure that across where we can, that there's services available in various areas and that it's not all concentrated in one particular area.
No, and I hear your point, Member Perez, and we are going to make the effort to geographically distribute all of these centers and hubs throughout the state, so, because I am equally concerned that not only the strong survive, but we have the geographical representation for our programs throughout the state. So, point well taken. We just completed the RFA process. It ended on February 18th, where we received applications from the colleges for these new grants, that full funding that we will be announcing later this month, after the EdPAC meeting on March 4th. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Next item. 3.2, appointment of directors to the Board of Directors of the Foundation for California Community Colleges. And at the end of that, Paul Lanning has also agreed to give us item 4.1, the update on the activities of the Foundation for California Community Colleges. Thank you, Paul Lanning, for being here.
Thank you and good morning. We are here very, very excited to have conclusion of a search that's been ongoing for about a year now for new director candidates for the board of the foundation. The foundation has existed as a 5-member board for quite a few years, actually since our inception in 1998, so nearly 12 years now, and that has proven to be a very small board, very nimble and very, very responsive to our needs. But as our initiatives grow and diversify in terms of certainly the traditional fundraising tasks that we've taken on in recent times, as well as our alumni outreach and public relations efforts on behalf of the system, we're very excited to bring forward 2 candidates at this time that have gone through a vetting process both by the foundation and by the foundation board of directors. These 2 individuals were voted upon by the board as candidates to be recommended to this board at a recent board meeting last week, which Member Reed was a part of, and both candidates participated in that meeting, teleconference last Monday. You have in front of you the biographies of both of those individuals. Both come with very significant experience in areas that we're very excited about adding to our board, and that expertise is very welcome at this time, certainly. So I would ask the board to consider the appointment of both Ellen Sloan and Christopher Cabalda to the Foundation Board of Directors.
Any questions or comments?
So moved.
Member Haley moves it. Member Reed seconds it. Any further discussion? I had one question. He was Christopher Cabaldan was a vice chancellor.
He was, yes.
He was a vice chancellor of in this office?
Government.
Public relations, essentially. Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, thank you. All in favor, I'm sorry?
I just noticed he was the co-author of the op-ed.
Yes, he was.
Yes.
What is that?
Interesting.
Question.
Oh,
Sorry.
yes, sure.
Are either of them here?
They are not here today, unfortunately. Business commitments kept them both from being able to attend, but they look forward to attending the Board of Governors meeting in July.
We'd like that.
Any other questions or comments?
Just real
Member
quickly to
Ramos?
follow up on my comment at yesterday's strategic planning retreat, Paul, I really appreciate the instinct to move the board to a larger number, and in particular to focus on fund development capacity to assist you in some of the more significant opportunities and challenges that you face. So I think this is a great movement in the right direction. I applaud you for the selection of these
Thank you.
individuals.
We're very excited about it. I think, and I've said this, I think at every board meeting I've attended the last 2.5 years, it's never been more important than now that we start to move in this direction, both as an organization at the statewide level, but also in supporting those individual college and district foundations throughout the state. We have to start attracting philanthropic support and diversifying revenue for colleges in a number of different ways. The Kresge study that's ongoing that I talked about at the last meeting is a part of that effort. Certainly the OSHR initiative is a larger part of that effort, but diversifying our board and strengthening the board in terms of the backgrounds that these two individuals will bring is likewise that important. And toward that end, just in a logistical sense, it gives us the opportunity to form subcommittees that are not comprised of the entire board. So that's rather important for my use as well.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions? So moved. Chancellor Scott?
I did not want to say anything to suggest I was trying to influence the vote. I personally don't know Ellen Sloan, but I will say a very positive word about Chris Cabaldon. Chris Cabaldon, I recall 20 years ago coming up here, and he was a staff member in the Capitol, and I heard him speak, and I immediately thought this young man has insight into higher education that's outstanding. He was extremely bright, and then, of course, he became a vice chancellor in this organization. And then after that, he was head of Ed Voice, which is a very powerful and well-known foundation that works on educational issues. And he was very helpful to me in a bill that I had that I thought was going to improve K through 12 education. And he and I called on the Sacramento Bee and they gave out an editorial in favor of that particular bill. And now he's involved in is it the New America Foundation? Is that the name
Correct.
of it?
Yes.
And of course, that's a foundation that's well known. And so I just thought I would add a word about my own acquaintance with Chris Cabaldon. Actually, he talked to me a month or two ago, and he said, I've been approached about the possibility of serving on the foundation. What do you think of that? And I said, I'm enthusiastic about it. I hope you do that. So I will, and I'm sure Ellen Sloan is also equally well qualified, but I thought I would add my word of commendation about this particular individual who I happen to know and think will not only his insights, but I think that he will have some contacts with foundations that can be very helpful to Paul in his work.
Thank you. We also have two of our board members that we're interested in having serve on your board as voting members. And you had brought up some, and that's our next order of business, you had brought up some questions that came to your mind. So I'd like you to share that with our board, and we'll have Executive Vice Chancellor Steve Bruckman.
Yes, and I thank you for your call, and then Gary, for your Member Reed, for your call as well over the past week. And I'm very excited about the idea of the two members that have been identified joining our board in a more formal capacity. Previously, as you all know, I think two members of the Board of Governors have comprised the foundation committee of the board and served as non-voting members of our board, essentially representing as liaisons the Board of Governors back and forth with our board. And what's been discussed most recently is the idea of those two members, whoever they may be, becoming voting members. The issues that I wanted to make the board aware of prior to that vote were simply logistical issues in terms of potential conflicts of interest, given our status as a private nonprofit corporation, the auxiliary to the Board of Governors. Questions regarding the potential conflict should budget votes arise, which of course do every year, and approval of our audit, given our fiscal support of the Board of Governors and the Chancellor's office. And in addition, the possibility of litigation against the foundation should it occur, possibly including members of the board being individually named, which of course is a possibility in our case. So those issues, both actual and potential and perceived conflicts of interest, were the chief issues I wanted to bring to the board's awareness, and simply have that on the table when you make that decision. And that said, I think all of it is certainly remediable, if that's a word, and it's just something I wanted to make sure everybody was aware of and had discussion of prior to a vote taking place. Hopefully you've all seen the note that I prepared for President Malumed, and the other concern, and probably the single greatest concern that I would have as the CEO of the foundation, is protecting our status as a non-public agency, in the sense that when we start to add public appointees to our board, we move closer potentially to the risk of being termed a public agency. So I would just ask that the board, in its bylaws as well as in our bylaws, stipulate that there be a cap. And traditionally there have been 2 members. If those 2 members become voting members, we're, I think, completely fine. But my concern would be that there not be a creep toward additional members in the future, which could ultimately become a majority of our board and thereby put at risk our public agency status, with the goal certainly that we were established in order to be able to enter into grants and contracts that public agencies cannot. Right. And that's our status as the auxiliary to this board. So with that said, that would be a relatively simple remedy, I think. But given the current pending legislation, SB 330, which has, of course, been batted around for some time now, as well as other issues that are out there, I think it's very important that we maintain that dividing line between the public and private entities that we traditionally have served as. And so that said, I welcome any discussion or questions I might be able to address on this topic.
The letter was sent to me. I got it late Friday, so our board does not have that letter. We can make copies and give it to you, but it has gone to Executive Vice Chancellor Steve Bruckman. Do you have any information for us? And I'll give this to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I did receive the letter over the weekend and have looked at it, and I appreciate President Lanning's comments. They are useful and important for the board to be aware of. I feel quite comfortable from a legal standpoint that there is not a legal conflict of interest in terms of board members serving on the foundation board. The foundation is an auxiliary of this board. This board actually has a responsibility to maintain some oversight of the foundation. So, and in fact, the authorizing statute in the Education Code that creates the auxiliary organization specifically contemplates a possibility that board members from this board would serve on the foundation board. So I don't think there's a legal conflict. Of course, there always is a concern about perception, and that's an ongoing situation in any public office or association relating to public office. If there is a conflict, if there's a perceived conflict of interest on a particular item, certainly a board member could abstain from that action, and that may be appropriate. I think that should be taken on a case-by-case basis. So I appreciate the concern, and it's important for the board to be aware of these things. I don't perceive there to be any significant concern. In terms of the liability issue, just very briefly, board members already are potentially liable. We had a discussion about this over a year ago, I believe, and the board at that time was satisfied that as long as the board is acting within the scope of their responsibilities and duties, that the state of California will stand behind them. And I think the same thing would apply as board members serving as members of the foundation board. So whereas there's always some possibility of being sued in our litigious society, I don't think it's a significant concern for the board.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? I see a few. Member Haley and Member Perez.
This is a very important topic, I think, for the board and moving in this direction, and I appreciate Steve's review of it. I would just hope that it's sufficient to cover what could be some serious and unpleasant conflicts of interest. I was on the board from the time it began, the foundation from the time that it began. And it was a concern for all the board and those of us that were supporting the foundation at the time. So I think I'm comfortable just having one legal opinion, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate for us to go forward until we are really assured that the voting members of our board on the foundation are really have the right responsibility to be able to do what they are there to do.
So you're asking for another legal
Yes.
opinion? Is that a possibility?
It's certainly a possibility. Actually, as I mentioned, I just received this over the weekend, so there has not really been a formal legal opinion issued by my office, which we could do. We could respond in greater detail than I have this morning, or we could seek an outside opinion from a law firm if that's the desire of the Board of Governors.
If I could comment in response to that, a lot of the concerns that were brought forth in this letter to you were prepared by the General Counsel for the Foundation as consideration points. That said, I don't think anything either in the bylaws or the standing orders or in this memo preclude that vote taking place. It's simply an awareness that there may be times when a recusal or abstention might be appropriate given, for example, when we're voting to approve a contract or grant with the Chancellor's office, it would certainly make sense then that the Board of Governors representatives would recuse themselves from that vote because it's a direct benefit to the Chancellor's office and or the Board of Governors. Similarly, when we approve the budget item that supports the Board of Governors and the Chancellor's office, it would make sense that, again, those members whose expenses oftentimes are compensated through that fund would perhaps recuse themselves from that vote. But that said, I'm fully in agreement with Steve that I don't see anything in either the bylaws of the foundation or the standing orders that preclude that happening. It's just simply an awareness that issue by issue there may be times when there is a bit of a conflict that we need to be aware of.
Does that help,
Yes.
Member Haley?
Yes, thank you. That does help clarify it for me, Paul.
Okay, thank you. Member Perez?
Oh.
Just a couple things. Having served as liaison on the foundation, I think it's important that we do have members that can in fact vote, particularly because the size of the board is so small, that if they have the expertise and assuming that people that we place on the board have the expertise to contribute to the success of the foundation, that would be a critical piece. But having served on Ed Fund and CPAC at a time when there was a major issue between board members serving on both boards and having conflict of interest, to Paul's note, I think it's important that two things occur. That one, we do limit the number of board members to no more than 2, because otherwise you can have an overrepresentation on the board. And secondly, that in both situations where either we are discussing things here that impact the foundation, as well as things that are discussed at the foundation that impact the Chancellor's office, that they recuse themselves from those discussions so that there's no self-serving involved in that, and that it's a very clear line of where their responsibilities lie between the two organizations.
Thank you. I think that makes it clear. Member Lockyer.
I recommend that we get an opinion from the Office of the Attorney General. There's an entire department that analyzes these things, and that would be easy to do.
Are you feeling that we need to do that before we vote on this, or?
No.
Okay.
I just think it would be good to get, another state office written opinion and or a call. Simple call.
Thank you for mentioning that. Member McDougall and Member Bow.
It may be helpful, but I think it is analogous to what happens on many of the community college campuses where the foundations are auxiliaries of the campus. They're separate operating groups, and yet there are usually college representatives that serve to provide clarity of communication and understanding among all board members. I think, as was mentioned by the president, the major concern is that the number of members from the organization does not become so substantial that they dominate the discussion, and that does not appear to be a problem at this point. But from a legal standpoint, it would seem, given the analogy to the campuses, I don't think there's any question but that members of the board should be able to serve as members.
Thank you.